I'm Regid Ahmed in London.
The BAFTA is awarded to La La Land.
It's Best Film, Best Director and Best Actress for the American romantic musical at the British Film Awards. We'll tell you who else picked up a BAFTA. And hours away from the 59th Grammy Awards, Beyoncé and Adele will go head-to-head for 3 major gongs, including Album of the Year.
Live from our studios in Singapore and London. This is BBC World News. It's Newsday.
Well, this week we may see President Donald Trump making his next move on immigration after an appeals court refused to reinstate his order banning travellers from 7 mainly Muslim countries entering the United States. Mr. Trump told reporters on board Air Force One that he may fight the case in the courts, but could also consider issuing a new executive order. A senior White House advisor told US media that the appeals court had gone too far. Well, also making news today, South Korea's special prosecutor said it would summon Lee Jae-yong, Samsung Group's de facto leader, for re-questioning this week over bribery allegations. Lee was questioned last month for more than 22 hours, but a court rejected a warrant to arrest him in the inquiry into a scandal that led Parliament to impeach President Park Geun-hye. Mr. Lee denies the charges, and we'll have more on this story in Asia Business Report coming up in the next 20 minutes. An update now on the attack on a Hong Kong underground train last week, where a carriage was set alight. A man has been charged with arson and his case will be heard at Kowloon City Magistrates Court on Monday. 19 people were injured and 3 people remain in a critical condition with serious burns. Hamburg Airport in Germany was temporarily evacuated and flights stopped after an irritant gas caused passengers to suffer breathing and eye problems. Firefighters later said they found an empty cartridge that had likely contained pepper spray or tear gas, which was sold in Germany for self-defense use. 9 people have been taken to hospital. Well, the Red Bull Air Race season has kicked off in Abu Dhabi for the 10th year in a row. Czech Republic's Martin Sonka won the first race of his career after being disqualified last year. And Spaniard Juan Velarde finished second and in doing so claimed his first podium placing. Well, Will Stephan is a climate change expert and former government advisor. Speaking from Sydney, he says Australia's extreme weather is consistent with what scientists say will happen with climate change.
One of the ways we can measure this is a thing called High Fire Danger Weather Index. And that's the sort of weather we were just been talking about. Extremely hot days, high winds, low humidity. We've been monitoring that for half a century, and we see a significant increase in this type of weather over the last 50 years. That's been pushed up by climate change, by the emission of fossil fuels.
We're seeing very hot fires that are behaving differently in the way that they might have in the past. There must be some desire from the government to implement policy to avoid this getting worse.
Well, we seem to have a real paradox here in that Australia is on the front line of many of the impacts of climate change. Last year we saw massive bleaching of the Great Barrier Reef. This year we're seeing extreme heat, extreme bushfires, and yet our federal government is still pushing for increased use of fossil fuels. Interestingly, though, many of the state governments are now taking matters into their own hand and starting their own renewable energy programs to try to get this under control.
What kind of temperatures and fire behaviour are we going to see going into the future? Is this only going to get worse?
It's going to get worse for another couple of decades simply because of the momentum built into the climate system from past emissions. This is a bit like trying to turn around a battleship. You can't do it instantly, but you've got to start turning the wheel if you want to turn the ship down the road. We actually have to do this now with climate change if we want to stabilize the climate system to prevent an ongoing long-term increase in these sort of conditions. We've got to start reducing emissions now and very deeply.
Now, the musical La La Land has picked up big prizes at the British Academy Awards, including Best Film, Best Director and Best Actress for Emma Stone. Best Actor went to Casey Affleck for his role in Manchester by the Sea. Our arts editor Will Gompertz wraps up the BAFTAs for us. Well, also on the programme, we hear how the firm behind Hello Kitty has a new character that's challenging the norms of female behaviour in Japan.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsday on the BBC. I'm Sharonjit Lail in Singapore.
And I'm Regid Ahmed in London. Our top stories. After the latest firing of a North Korean ballistic missile, the US, Japan and South Korea call for an urgent UN Security Council meeting. Well, let's take a look at some of the other front pages around the world. The China Daily is leading on President Trump's meetings in the US with Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The paper is keen to emphasise that while Washington has increased its security commitment to Japan and has avoided going too far in aligning with Tokyo's wishes to contain China. Now, the Straits Times also covers the reaffirmation of US-Japanese security ties. The paper suggests that the test launch of a North Korean missile is seen as a protest by Pyongyang against the bilateral relationship. And on to the global economy and the business pages of the Gulf News. It questions how much longer inflation will remain low given the challenges to the status quo by the new American administration. Now, Sharonjit, tell us about stories that are sparking discussions online. Well, the award-winning jazz and pop singer Al Jarreau has died in a Los Angeles hospital. Al Jarreau was acclaimed for his versatility, winning 7 Grammy Awards across jazz, pop, R&B categories. The 76-year-old was admitted to hospital earlier in the week. Just days ago, he announced he was retiring due to exhaustion. Well, the Grammys are taking place tonight, and I'm sure the stars will be paying tribute to Al Jarreau. Peter Bowe is in LA for us. Let's have a chat to him now. Peter, I'm sure there will be a lot of other tributes, but there's also a lot of performances that people are looking forward to. Tell us about that.
Well, yes, the Grammys are as much about, perhaps even more, about the performances on the night than they are about the awards. There's 83 categories and the awards are very important, but the performances often see some unique collaborations. And this year we're looking forward to, well, Lady Gaga and Metallica, which seems a little unlikely, but that is one of the performances that we are promises. Of course, Lady Gaga coming off her hugely successful performance last weekend at the Super Bowl, a flawless performance. She does have some metal roots. She performed in a tribute band when she was much younger. So I think people are looking forward to that, as well as all of the awards as well.
Peter, we've been seeing a lot of people arriving and no doubt everyone's looking forward to the start very shortly. But I believe that for the first time there's an award for streaming. Tell us about that.
Yes, for the very first time, the Grammys are allowing artists who stream their music to be nominated at the Grammys. And Chance the Rapper, that's his name, real name Chancellor Bennett, a 23-year-old from Chicago, hugely popular as an independent artist, never been signed to a label in his life, and he doesn't want to be. He makes his own music and he uploads it himself to the streaming services. It's the future, at least as far as some people see it in music, and he is nominated for Best New Artist, and I think he could well be a favourite in that category. The awards have already started to be handed out. He's won already in one of the rap categories, and although it is controversial to some not to be paid for your music, he firmly believes in making music for free and distributing it for free.
And just quickly, everyone's talking about Adele and Beyonce.
Yeah, Adele actually has already won 2 awards, nominated in 5 categories. She's won out of 2 of those categories so far. Just to explain, there are really 2 Grammys ceremonies, one taking place not televised right now, and the other big show a little bit later. She's up in the big categories, including Best Album, Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Her big rival is Beyonce, who has also produced a hugely successful album this year, Lemonade. I think she's probably favourite to win for Best Album.
Peter Bowe's in LA. We'll catch up with you a bit later. Well, before we go, let's take a look at these pictures. They are from the traditional Lantern Festival in Guangzhou. That's the capital city of South China's Guangdong province, and they show glittering drones. There's a total of 1,000 of them as they take off, lighting up the night sky. It's quite magical, actually, and the drones are in different colours of light and flew in various formations, such as the Chinese characters for Blessing and also Lantern Festival. And they also had the map of China as well. Now, the performance set a Guinness World Record with the biggest number of drones involved. That's it for now, but do stay with BBC World News. You can catch me on Twitter. I'm at BBC Regid Ahmed, and do go to our website bbc.com/news for all the news on the Grammys. There's a nice piece there that gives you all the background on what to expect and who's going to perform and who might win. That's at bbc.com/news, and the Grammys are starting shortly, so do have a look. See you soon.